Look at this. Twitter, the great purge has begun. Twitter users report losing thousands of followers as Elon Musk formally takes over the platform and sets to work on bot cleaning. He says he hasn't changed its, like the content moderation. But take a look at this. Kate Smith says, wow, I lost a few hundred followers overnight. Welcome to Twitter, Elon. People are saying, I lost followers. One person with the Ukrainian flag in their profile, I lost 50 followers. Yeah, you know what I think? Said it before, I'll say it again. Twitter was propping up fake accounts to make it look like the left was more prominent than they were because the right is more prominent. Right. And they were banning people on the right and shadow banning them to make it seem like they were less prominent. They put their thumb on the scale.
And this is so important when you talk about politicians, you talk about their staff, you talk about the decisions that happen in Washington. They see Twitter as really what's the viewpoint of the vast majority of people, their constituents, what's the public's, view on things, but it's a completely manipulated, audience pool. I mean, if it was a congressional district, it'd be like a D+70. It's not something that exists in the real world. And it's all about the perception that they're creating, the illusion they're creating. And it's not just the likes, it's not just the follows. It's even the comments. I mean, you see those memes that go around where it's all the same comment that's being shared every time a major news cycle hits. And I'm glad he's going after it. And it's also noticeable. It's these left-wing accounts claiming they're losing followers, which were bots. A few weeks ago, it was right-wing accounts claiming they lost followers who were real people.
They're saying it's people quitting the platform.
Yeah, no.
In protest?
So what? Is the 4,000 followers a bunch of conservatives joining the platform? I don't believe it because Twitter recommends leftist accounts, not right-wing accounts.
First, leftists, they'll never follow through on their threats to quit. They never move to Canada, for example. So I doubt that they actually, are quitting Twitter right now. So it's certainly bots. That was something he brought up, and that was something that came up, in the evaluation talks when they were first, in talks to buy. It was the bot issue. I mean, that's a fundamental issue.
It could be that Elon immediately went after the bots. First thing he did.
His first task, yeah.
Yeah, and so, I'll say maybe I want to see some changes faster than he can go about it. Maybe Elon is like, the bots got to go first.
And advertisers are on board with that if we want to go back to the finance, because they want real, clean legitimate numbers. Clean, metrics. They don't want bots.
Or maybe just to investigate to see what was going on, to see what the algorithm really was, to see how it was being manipulated, to see who was being punished for what. I think there needs to be a long investigation into what is essentially potentially very illegal activities with election interfering done by Twitter. So that's a very serious accusation, but only someone who just acquired a company is going to be looking into that right now as we're speaking.
And we have to give him more credit. I do agree with you. He's coming into a company where the workforce that exists is largely hostile.
Hates him.
He needs to fire 70%. I think he could probably fire 90%. He is in a good position that he could bring over some loyal, staff and support from, Tesla, some of his engineers there, et cetera. But it is going to take a period of time just from a logistical, technical perspective to dig into this and actually find out what's going on behind the scenes, how it can be rectified, how it can be...
And how do you undo
guys, he's not going to endear himself to the employees after he just fired Ligma Johnson.
Ligma Johnson was asking for it, though.
Who is this Ligma Johnson fellow?
Ligma Johnson is on local news and a very serious person.
This is real. This is really his name.
Yes.
I think it was like, it was two guys. It was like Rahul Ligma and Daniel Johnson.
Were they got fired? Is that a real story?
They were trolls. They showed up to Twitter HQ with boxes.
That is awesome.
And then the media was like,
I think they're going to get hired.
They thought they got fired automatically. Yeah.
Turns out.
Ligma
if you're
Johnson.
looking for a job, I mean, honestly, if you're a free software developer and you want to get involved, keep your eyes on Twitter because he's going to be hiring. Or it can just be a community project. We don't need to wait.
He's going to be firing.
He's going to be opening up a lot of positions. But the thing is, I don't think Twitter needs, I don't know where they have 5,000 employees. I mean, if you're running a free software decentralized network, you need the world's community to be involved. And you don't need to pay them.
There's so much dead weight there.
Can I show you this, guys? Parag Agrawal's salary was $30.4 million in 2021. Ned Segal was $18.9 million. Vijaya was $17 million. Sean Edgett, his compensation was unclear. He was the one who had to be escorted out of the building, which is really interesting. Wow. So what is this? A former COO, Sarah Personet, was handed $11.2 million as part of Musk's house clearance. I want you to think about $30.4 million. And I'd like to ask you, what do you do with that money? What do you do with it?
I was going to say what they did for it, but...
No, I mean, he's working a full-time job, which is very, he runs Twitter. I know, being the CEO, it's a high-level job of a very large company. It's just insane to me that these people, couldn't get an edit button done in a year, but they were given $30 million.
Well, the pay wasn't based on the merits or the financials or anything quantitative. It was based on loyalty to the regime and the regime's, doctrine and what they were trying to push through this platform and the social engineering they wanted to use the platform for. And they were, only willing participants in that, so they were paid handsomely for doing a job well done. But it's not based on any basic profit or loss model of a traditional business. It's based on loyalty to the regime, and that's why this gentleman will be spending that $30 million somehow. I have no idea though.
$30 million to not be able to get an edit button done in a year. That's just it's incredible. I don't think people truly understand what $30 million means. He wouldn't be able to spend that if he tried.
Wasn't there like a dozen real engineers? I'm making the numbers up, but there was an extremely small number of real engineers, and the entire structure of the workforce was like a reverse pyramid, where it was those 12 supporting this massive, bloated, pension scheme at Twitter effectively. And it was like these few engineers that were doing all the work, and everything else was just, corporate fluff and councils and committees and, diversity leaders, whatever it is.
Yeah. I don't think the hardware was the majority of the people. There are probably people that are like, how do we handle the crowd kind of people?
Right.
Trust and safety. It's like so Orwellian.
It's all like an extension of HR. It's all just these positions that exist to perpetuate their own positions. They're not actually fundamentally doing any real work.
I will say, like you said, I don't know. Maybe there were incredible developers across the board.
There was a meme that came out that said, Musk fires half of Twitter, replaces it with one hardworking Indian engineer.
Yeah.
That's basically what it is.
He could do the job of 3,200 people.
Right.
Yep.
Exactly.
Yep. That sounds about right.
Well, it's all email pushing jobs. They send an email, they're going to circle back, and that concludes the day. All right, guys.
The thing about the compensation that really gets me is that I would be willing to bet a substantial sum myself that you, the average viewer, could do his job. Not kidding. What knowledge does he have where he was like, it was mismanaged. It was managed so poorly, the company was struggling. It was basically failing. This is just, there is an elite class in this planet. It's always been the case. They do nothing. They get everything.
But they think it's on merit.
In 2018, there were roughly 4,000 Twitter employees. 3 years later, 2021, or 4 years later, I guess, there were 75. So it went from 4,000 to 7,500. Now, almost doubled the amount of employees.
Now map the user growth, which I think if you factor out bots, I don't know what it is, but it's probably stagnant, if not, a downward trend. But at least if you factor out bots, which may not be possible.
All right, let's find out.
Yeah, people are pointing out that Kanye's Twitter account is back, and Elon pointed out that's an automatic thing. That has nothing to do with him.
Oh, it was like one of those 7-day things or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And so his account just turned back on or whatever.
Well, he should just take credit.
I just, it really is shocking, and it's unfortunate. I would be willing to bet, additionally, that if I took that $30 million in 1 year, 30, and gave it to a random viewer of this show, they would build something more substantial, more historical, and better than anything he did. That's just, I really can't stand Silicon Valley and that machine, crony capitalist BS. Mm-hmm. I despise it so much.
It's an incentive structure for loyalty. You keep these guys operating against their own company's best interests because they know the payout will be greater than whatever else they could get through normal channels. And
I guess he got $60 million to get fired.
Parag, what's his name? Parag?
Yeah.
He got $60 million?
I think. Someone want to fact check it real quick?
Well, in a way,
I think his golden parachute was $60 million.
I was wondering what Elon would do. I'm glad that he gave them payouts. I mean, I don't think you can ethically just say like goodbye. Now everything that you were earning is set to zero. So, but that's a lot of money, my man.
Ethically,
$60 million.
Let's see. I got this. The total value they say in Guardian was $120 million in golden parachutes. Do they break it down? Here we go. What is it? No, okay, 8.4 to Agarwal doesn't sound right.
This all goes back to the Fed. It's all malinvestment.
$34.8 million to Vijaya Gadde. Why would she get more than the CEO? That seems strange. Whatever. There you go.
She's been there longer.
She's a woman.
Well, she's been there longer, so
Yeah,
maybe
I think
that's
that's
it. But it's just so crazy, man.
I'm looking at the user growth. The numbers from 2018, they had 335 million monthly active users, but then 2 years later, they had 330. So, I mean, actually down 5 million.
So the staff went up and the users went down.
That's right.
It's a great setup.
Yeah. The staff went from almost went from 4,000 to 5,500, while the daily user
it
rate
pays
didn't
to be
change.
the thought police. When you're censoring speech, when you're going after people for political ideas and expression and act like you're fighting the Germans during the 1930s, you got to be paid a lot of money to play pretend for that long, for that big of a circumstance. So
for that crazy of an act.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you got to pay for private security if you're in Silicon Valley. A lot of crazy people out there running around with hammers. And deranged individuals and people throwing poop at you and people,
syringes.
People giving themselves the vaccine in the streets all the time.
Yeah.
So
I want to see Rumble's headquarters because I'm thinking about Twitter's HQ was very lavish. Did you go tour it at all?
Yeah, I got a tour of the headquarters down.
Is it a small like bachelor style apartment? There's no bathroom.
It's surreal because it looks like a cartel house, like right on the water. It's huge. It's
Chris
a beautiful
Pavlovsky
place.
greeted you with like a scotch and a cigar, and he was like,
"Where's the
Lucas."
Lamborghini?" I'm like, "This looks like a scene out of Scarface." It really does. And I'm like, where's the rifle?
I feel like that's better than a modernist, soulless building in Silicon Valley with their cafeteria and all their little perks and their yoga
and it's not
room.
that big.
That's what I'm wondering. How many floors?
2 floors.
Oh, see, that's modest. We didn't have a huge. I mean, that is a massive amount of overhead.
Not that many rooms either.
You just don't need it. Not with social media, man. You don't need big buildings. It's all about servers and server placement, which ideally we'll have that stuff in orbit because if we do take some sort of asteroid contact, we're going to need to preserve our data and our knowledge.
But Ian, the problem is how do you dissipate the heat in outer space on big data centers?
You could hit it with laser cooling.
Laser cooling?
Like if you hit something with a laser, it should move heat that way.
Move heat where?
Off along with the laser. Like the laser will carry the heat with it.
I see what you're saying. So the laser goes through it and then actually transfers the energy out.
Correct.
If we could do direct thermal conversion into light and then beam it away, that would work. That'd be crazy.
Where your head's at. I'm glad you're my friend.
That's a cool idea.
That's pretty cool.
I mean, for right now, yeah, actually, that's interesting. But the servers are going to generate heat. We can try and recapture heat, but it's got to go somewhere because the ambient heat we can't control perfectly. The efficiency wouldn't be there.
Yeah, we should just write things on stone. Just go back. That'll work.
The servers operate by a guy reading the code and typing in the ones and zeros manually.
Yeah.
Let's see. Yep. In 27 years, you'll get this tweet out.
Chris Pavlovsky, CEO of Rumble, and Elon have been, I don't know if the two of them directly have been in talks, but Chris reached out to him on Twitter about a month ago and was like, hey, you want to get involved? Because I'm a big fan. Yeah. And Elon was like, all right. And then now I hear they're working on because Chris is a server guy, Elon's a satellite guy. Satellite
Twitter
servers.
needs a video component. Twitter needs something that could either be a TikTok or another Periscope or another Vine. They need that. They don't have that.
What if Elon does succeed with X and Twitter becomes a place where you've got a wallet, uses crypto, you can post videos, you can write stories, you can make tweets. Like it really becomes what Mark Zuckerberg was hoping Facebook would become.
The American WeChat. And then I'm going to be critical of it and skeptical of it because of how powerful and all-encompassing it will be. But as of right now, I'm optimistic when I see Bill Gates and other establishment figures attacking him. But when it becomes too mainstream, that's when I'm going to have questions.
Well, no one thought that MySpace was going to fail or even Snapchat, and now it looks like Facebook, the platform itself, is pretty much going nowhere. So who knows? We'll get a revitalization story out of Twitter.
If I was a billionaire, I would do what I would call the Parag Agrawal challenge. And I would give $30 million to a random person for an investment project. Obviously, there's rules. You don't just get the money. It would be an investment, not income. It would be we create a company. We put $30 million in it. Go, and then we would see at the end of 1 year what we have. I think it would be hilarious because you could take your average contractor, and they'd be like, "Oh, I built a bunch of houses." I'm like, "Wow, houses! Oh, that's really amazing." Parag, what did you do in 1 year? Well, I was running Twitter and we could get an edit button done. It's like, I'm sure he was doing something, you know what I mean? But based on that Project Veritas video where the guy is like, I work 4 hours a week or something like that, right. I really doubt any of them are doing anything.
No. Yeah, you want people that are committed to 40 plus hours a week at least, because it's about organization at that level. If you have 30 million, I could pay you 30 million, but if you're only working 8 hours a week and there's no other employees, then
you've seen those viral TikTok videos with the girl walking around like, here's my day in the office. I got lunch, yoga. It's really stressful.
Red wine on tap.
Right.
So here's the secret. Investors ask people. They say, ask you a question. If tomorrow you woke up and you had $1 million in the bank account, cash, clean, ready to, it was legitimate deposit, what would you do? What would you do, Gavin?
I would just buy property.
You'd buy property?
Yeah, rentals.
It's not a terrible answer. Yeah.
They're not making any more land.
What about you, Ian? What would you do?
I think I would buy a house at this moment.
Yeah.
But it depends. For
At this interest rate? Are you crazy?
Although I hear the housing market's about to dip.
Cash. It's like cash purchase. What would you do if you woke up and you had $1 million just in cash in your bank?
Buy a whole bunch of employees and expand operations.
Buy employees like slaves?
No,
but
that's thinking outside the box.
You expand VR change.
No. That's not outside the box. Yeah. Your guys' answer would never get you an investment.
Oh yeah, I'm not looking for investment.
You want it?
Oh
yeah. Well, yeah.
It doesn't matter if you think you're getting investment or not. The question.
I mean, I could pay 4 people $100,000.
Okay, but here's what people are looking for. They're looking for someone who naturally wants to expand operations, not someone who needs to be told to do it. So if you said, I'd buy a house, they go, that's really cool. Nice meeting you. And if they went to a homeless guy and he goes like, I'd love to start a company. Now we're going to make birdhouses and I'm going to hire 100 people and have the biggest birdhouse. Like, you're hired. Here, we'll give you the money.
Yeah, they give you $72,000 a month for server space on AWS while I'm paying $60,000 for 9 employees, 3 of which will be working for the 6 others. 2 people will be that kind of thing. And they're like, oh God, yes, plug it in.
But you need to understand this, that most people will be like, oh, well, I didn't know you meant if I was going to do a business. I don't. I mean, what's your first priority? And you guys clearly said property. Not a bad answer because property is an investment. Most people will say like, I'd go to Hawaii. I'd take my family out. Those people will never see a dime from an investor. But so even with what we're doing here at Timcast, the biggest challenge is personnel, is finding people who want to work on something, not people who want a job. People who want a job tend to just, quiet quit, do the bare minimum. So when you're trying to invest in someone and give them a substantial amount of money, you want to go to someone and say, if you had $1 million, what would you do? It's like, oh man, I've always wanted to launch my own comic book distribution network. And if I just had the capital, we'd get it going. But I've already got the books. I just need to figure out how to get to these. You're hired. Here's the money. Have fun. Good luck.
What do you find is the bulk of cost when you're running operations?
Labor. Always labor.
But
humans cost
more
money.
Specifically, in-house labor, out-of-house labor.
It's all the same. Labor's labor. People are the most expensive thing.
By far.
Yeah.
But I mean, do you end up spending 20%, 15% of the cost on like outsourced labor, like legal stuff like that, marketing, things like that?
What do you mean?
I just wonder, just in general, like if you spend it mostly on in-house employees, or if you
of course,
most of it's in in-house.
I mean,
employees.
we have a lot of contractors, and then we have legal, and then we have construction, and then we have external marketing and PR. There's a lot of stuff that we don't do in-house because it doesn't make sense to do. And most of the cost is like an employee working for the company.
You prefer to do that?
I mean,
in-house?
It's not so much prefer as just like, it's more like if there's a wavy field, let's say this table was wavy and you poured water on it, the water would pool in the lowest point. You know what I mean? It's not like I'm saying we should do contract labor or something. It's like, that's how it's done. I'm not going to hire a lawyer to work for this company. You know what I mean? I'm going to contract a law firm who can handle it.
Specialization.
Yeah. Like the people we need to hire, the people who need to be here all the time, specifically like a video producer, an audio engineer. But like Vice had in-house counsel. They had a room with like 2 or 3 lawyers in it. They were really, really big. Maybe we'll get to that point, But, yeah. Anyway, my point ultimately about the cash stuff is I look at a lot of the people in Silicon Valley and a lot of the people at these companies, and they should not be getting paid what they're getting paid because they don't care about the product. They don't care about the growth. They don't care about the mission. They don't believe in merit. They believe in like, I deserve to be here, and then they do nothing, and then it just burns to the ground.
It's a broader problem in corporate America where you see these compensation packages are so out of whack with what they actually deliver. Mm-hmm. And they make excuses and they talk about the scale of things, et cetera. But at the end of the day, it still is very much out of whack when you look at what you mentioned before, the growth in terms of staff and employees and the decrease in actual users. I mean, there's
I'll tell you, it's like a 45% increase in staff with no nominal growth.
With a negative.
Here's a secret. If you want to be rich, go hang out with rich people. That's it. Goodbye. I'll tell you why. In like the Palisades, in Brentwood, in California, and LA, these places. You've been there.
Oh, yeah. Beautiful.
These are the places where if you were just friends with one of these wealthy Hollywood elites, you can be like, I sell this fancy lotion. It's $100 a bottle. They'll say, "Ooh, I'd love some," and then it's Jergens in a little bottle. And this is the way it works. I've known people who are like, oh, I make jewelry. And I'm like, how much do you make per year? It's only a couple $100,000 per year. And I'm like, for making jewelry, yeah. But I have a very select clientele of Hollywood elite. It's like, okay,
Hamptons
because
too.
you know Hamptons too, because you're friends with rich people and they want to buy from you, they just have money and give it to you. You're rich. There you go.
There's a whole socialite class,
Absolutely.
between the Hamptons and Hollywood, whatever, that feed off of that. Usually, they fall into like the wine mom, category of in terms of demographics.
It's unfortunate when people turn to alcohol when they get bored. So much money, they beat the game and they just start getting drunk every night.
The only difference, on average, in my opinion, maybe not necessarily, but there's a fine line between someone with a carpet, a sheet thrown on the ground, with a bunch of jewelry strewn about it, and they're sitting there smiling at you saying $1 necklaces, and some, yoga wine aunt who is making $300,000 a year selling necklaces to select clientele in the Palisades. It's just who you know.
A $4,000 haircut because you're worth it.
Exactly.
And then they're able to write that off on their taxes.
This is all the Fed.
I don't think you could write off haircuts on your taxes.
Thank God.
Depending on your industry.
Yeah, entertainment.
So like Hollywood can. And this is the craziest thing. If you're an actor in Hollywood, all that cosmetic stuff is a business expense. And I mean, to be honest, it kind of is.
It's legitimate.
You need to look a certain way and whatever. But I have hung out with people who have told me their jobs are just like, oh, I sell this, that, or otherwise. And I'm like, and you make that much, you make $500,000 selling. They're like, well, of course. I get 20% commission on all the products. And my clients are all very wealthy. And I'm like...
It's like a royal court for like these new aristocrats.
Literally.
You got the jester, you got a few people. Exactly.
Luke, you mentioned that you would expand operations. Are you talking about for We Are Change?
Yeah, and then just looking at solutions. I think providing food that's not poison is a good big industry that I think has a lot of potential to also get into, that I would want to get into, that I'm kind of looking into getting into, and helping people as much as I can.
So like selling like health food?
Maybe not even just health food, maybe just normal regular food,
Yeah,
without seed oils.
Without high fructose corn syrup, seed oils, and all the, forever chemicals and microplastics and other things that just destroy humanity.
But it has a green label on it and it says it's healthy. What are you trying to tell me?
No, you're wrong. You've been propagandized.
Let's put little styrofoam cubes in a plastic wrap and then put the ingredients list on it, and then people wouldn't know the difference anyway. You know what I mean? Like
You'd see a guy eating it. Some fat guy.
Put
it's
some
like
yellow
it's like Rice Krispies. Yeah, it's petrochemical.
Didn't they do an experiment where they made a Rice Krispie with like sawdust? Like just a small amount of sawdust, and wanted to see if people could tell, and they couldn't. And it's basically equivalent what they do to most of our food.
Have you looked at Parmesan cheese from the supermarket?
Oh yeah.
One of the ingredients is cellulose.
Yeah.
It might as well be cardboard.
Right. Yeah.
It's indigestible plant matter.
Well, yeah, and they talk about we have a society where you're constantly having to work out just to be the bare minimum in terms of healthy. You go to Europe, you look back in time, the caloric intake hasn't gone up. It's the quality of the food we're putting in is trash, and then we wonder why we're never been more unhealthy.
So here, we talked about this the other day. I went on, we had Seth Weathers on. He said, I need to eat more protein. I said, I ate like 100 grams in one day. So you need 150. And I was like, do I? And then I checked like a government website and it said 70 grams, but it said I should be eating 400 to 500 carbs. And then I was just thinking to myself, I couldn't eat that many carbs if I tried.
Right. Well, they also said eggs were bad. They said butter was bad. They said everything. Meat was bad. It's like it's all nonsense.
Whatever the government says, don't
do the opposite. Do what tradition tells you. And tradition says eat a lot of meat, eggs, butter.
Let me tell you. You know those Outright bars we have?
Yeah.
Those have 24 grams of carbs in it. So I have to eat like 20 of them to get the 500 carbs they claim. I could barely eat one of those protein. Granted, there's protein in them, but if I ate 20 of them, that's too much protein.
Oh my God.
20 of them.
Insane.
They want you fat, childless, and on a really manipulated Twitter. That's their vision. Yeah.
Yep. And so I've been eating. So I probably do need more protein, to be honest, because I skate a lot, exercise a lot. But it's just insane that that's what people are told to eat. The whole system just seems completely broken to me.
And we waste so much time talking about health and exercise. instead of putting into other productive things. It's like we're so focused on the bare minimum, not being, an obese, morbidly obese person. These are things 100 years ago you didn't really have to deal with. And I'm not saying they had to go out and hunt or gather and, hunt their food. We had a balance, as recently as the 1970s. You could look at the charts. It backs it up, but we just have so much time and energy wasted now into health food and just returning to a normalcy. Like you said, it's not even health food. It's just
normal food.
Yeah.
Normal food that my grandma used to eat that we don't get to eat right now because of a number of different factors. Monocropping is another horrible element, but more importantly, you don't even need to look at the science or the data. Look at the photos. Look at the people a couple decades ago. Look at the people now. It's terrifying. Whenever you go to like a beach or a public park or a theme park, you look around, and if you start paying attention, you're like, holy freaking cow, there is biological warfare being committed on everyone.
Mostly in this country, though. Because you go to other countries, it's not nearly as bad.
You see that photo from the 50s where everyone's just fit looking? Yeah. So weird.
Yeah, they didn't go to gyms. They didn't count their calories.
Now Disney is doing that fat chick film where it's like you can be morbidly obese, but it's okay.
It's it feels like we're dancing around a renaissance, but if not for the overweight, the obesity crisis.
Well, it's all these distractions because we have to relearn all these basic things we used to know and be able to do innately, just be healthy. Now it's like this is an active thing we have to do to be healthy.
They call it organic food. Organic means carbon-based. All food is organic.
Right. Yeah. But they created a special word for what food is supposed to be.
That's so weird.
I love it. It's like organic food means like food. Right. So we should actually we should change this. Chemical food and food.
Right.
So it's like I got milk. Is it chemical milk or is it milk?
Altered.
It's chemical milk.
Well, language is
altered.
That's
Altered.
all language. It's
Altered
language
milk.
warfare. I mean, even look at schools. It's like public school. It's a state school.
Thanks for checking out this segment from the Timcast IRL podcast. But if you want to check out the full show live, tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. And if you want more special access content, head over to timcast.com and become a member. Your membership helps sustain this company, keep our journalists employed, makes this show happen, and you will get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast, and there's a massive library to check out. So again, go to timcast.com or tune in Monday through Friday at 8 p.m., and we'll see you all there.